I feel like I know you. Of course, you have been at the forefront of this issue, a voice that I constantly look to. So I am a huge fan. Like I said, I can't believe we haven't done this sooner, but I'm thrilled to be in this chair next to you.
Thank you. And your story helped activate me on all of this, because while I was speaking out and I'd had a change of heart from where I used to be, it was when you got attacked in San Francisco that, for the first time in my life, I said, I might need to form like a 501c3. I might because, as a journalist, you're not used to being an activist. I don't really like that word, but I couldn't believe what they did to you as a woman who has standing to speak about this issue, as a woman who was directly affected by a man competing in her sport at the highest level. And they treated you like a villain. You were literally assaulted. How pivotal was that moment for you? Because I know you write about it in the book.
It was a huge defining moment for me. Up until that point, I kind of just figured I would speak to this issue, say my piece, speak about the unfairness of the competition, the locker room, the silencing that we face, but swiftly move on. This is not something that I ever wanted to do. I still don't necessarily want to be doing with my life. But when I was ambushed, I was being shoved, I was being pushed, I was punched in the face by these men wearing dresses, which fortunately for me, their punches really don't hurt that bad. They held me for ransom throughout the night. 4 hours held me for ransom, demanding that if I wanted to make it home to see my family safely again, I had to pay them money. You might be wondering, okay, well, where are the police? It's San Francisco. The police were being held for ransom with me. It was a wild experience. And it was in that moment I realized, oh my gosh, this is what we're up against. And let's be very clear. My message from the beginning has been that there are two sexes. You can't change your sex. And each sex is deserving of equal opportunity, privacy, and safety. Nothing controversial, nothing hateful. It's really the bare minimum.
Yeah.
What I'm advocating for. But for saying that, the amount of vitriol and violence that I was met with, that's when I was really reassured that what I was speaking to was in fact the right thing, the fair thing, just, moral, ethical thing.
What was it? What was the name of the university again?
San Francisco State University.
We pulled the tape just to refresh the audience. It was bad. Here's a little.
Yeah, you fucking transphobic bitch. I fucking see you.
It's just me. I'm good. I'm good. You got me. I'm good.
Mom's chasing her.
I'm coming. I'm good.
You crying? You fucking crying, bitch. Fuck you. Trans women are women. 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 Trans women are women.
Oh my God.
So that's only a snippet of what I endured for hours. Hundreds of these protesters, again, so disorienting at that, because they come in the room, that's after I had been escorted, kind of carried off out of the room after having already been ambushed. But they come in the room, they turn the lights off, rush to the front, the lights are flickering before they're indefinitely turned off. Again, men in dresses running at me, women with beards. I was so confused.
Oh my gosh.
Incredibly disorienting. And again, that's what I endured for hours. Some of the most heinous, profane things you could possibly imagine being said were said to me. They were yelling at the officers, calling the officers racist pigs for protecting a white girl like me, for hours.
That chant, trans women are women, is behind all of the problems we're seeing. That they believe that's true and we don't. We know it isn't.
That's the whole premise of the entire gender ideology debate. So whether it's the sports side, whether it's what we see in corporate America, whether it's the medicalization side of things, that's the premise of the whole debate. And we spend so much of our time on this issue saying or hearing trans women are women, but it only seems like it goes one way, especially in sports and prisons and different places. We don't hear of women identifying as men infiltrating into men's spaces.
Yep.
No, this is only happening one way.
I know you went, our audience may remember we covered the Kappa Kappa Gamma lawsuit. They claimed that this man, biological man, well, we know that he got into Kappa Kappa Gamma out in Wyoming, and a bunch of the sorority sisters objected, and they objected mostly to their own sorority allowing it. And now they filed a lawsuit against Kappa Kappa Gamma National, saying you've changed the definition on us. You've done a bait and switch. You said we were only going to allow women, and now you haven't. You've allowed a man. And you went to the arguments that simple concept of what is a woman, does it include more than women, is now being argued in front of the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. That's one step down from the U.S. Supreme Court. And they were really wrestling with it.
Well, we shouldn't be surprised considering when a sitting Supreme Court justice was asked this question, what is a woman, by Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn, she said, well, I can't answer that because I'm not a biologist. Well, guess what? Ketanji Brown Jackson, I'm not a biologist. I guess thinking of an analogy here, I'm not a veterinarian either, but I know what a dog is. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And it's no surprise that this is the same Supreme Court justice who recently said she felt like our First Amendment rights were hamstringing the government. Yeah. That's precisely what our First Amendment rights are supposed to do. But nonetheless, it was wild to sit in that court. They pulled a panel of judges, 3 judges. One was a Biden appointee, one was a Clinton appointee, one was an Obama appointee. So
that's a nightmare.
It's like some sort of like joke, like you walk into a bar and this is your scenario. But that's what the girls drew. So we don't know the verdict yet, but I'm not overly hopeful just based on the panel of judges. But to sit there and listen to the Kappa attorney say that woman has multiple definitions. It's not a word with one singular definitions. It can mean anything. She was even then pushed back by the Biden appointee judge who said, okay, well, if you're sitting here telling us that woman can mean anything, does that include the definition of cisgender men who identify as men? Is that a reasonable definition for woman? To which she responded back with, I don't have enough research now
my God.
to tell you if a male who identifies as a male, if that's a reasonable definition for the word woman.
It's a promising thing that the judge pushed back a little. I mean, she's recognizing that there must be some limitations
100%
on how we define it, but I don't have high hopes. I mean, the 10th Circuit normally is not the most liberal court in the country, but I don't have high hopes. I do have high hopes for this Supreme Court. I realize the audience is thinking Gorsuch, Title VII, he said you have to be able to hire trans people, but that I do think is very different from this issue. It's just very different. I do not like the chances of the trans activists if cases like this go up to the high court.
I agree. The Supreme Court hasn't heard a Title IX case yet. There's a couple, I think, that are on the docket that could hopefully get there. And I say hopefully because I am in full agreement with you. I think the Supreme Court would rule in our favor on this, that they would understand that sex-based categories and protections and rights are necessary when, again, opportunities are threatened, when privacy or safety are threatened.
How do you think about that, Riley? So if the Supreme Court were so to rule, or if, we just had complete sanity reign at the Olympic level, at the NCAA level, I know I've read the stories in the book about your dad, you don't look backward, you only look forward. But how do you think it would make you feel as somebody who actually came up in the time of madness, in the time where we were forcing young women to deal with this?
Well, it's wild to me that so much of what we see now by the Biden administration, this new Title IX rewrite from the administration and the Department of Education, not to mention all of the other things, whether it's the sports issue or not, that they're doing under the guise of progress, right? Indicating we are moving in the positive forward direction. Let's be very clear. What we are seeing is not progress. This is regressive. It's taking us back in time, at least half a century. Title IX was implemented in 1972, so 52 years ago. That's what we're going back to by asking women to smile, to step aside, to allow these men onto our podiums, telling us that we're the problem if we don't want to or feel totally comfortable undressing next to a fully naked, fully intact man. That's not what progress is.
Let me tell you a story about a guy named Leo Grillo. Leo was on a road trip and came across a Doberman. This dog was severely underweight and clearly in trouble. Leo rescued the dog and named him Delta. But sadly, Delta was just one of many animals that needed help, and this inspired Leo to start Delta Rescue, the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They've rescued thousands of dogs, cats, and horses from the wilderness, and they provide their animals with shelter, love, safety, a home. April marks 45 years since Leo rescued Delta. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions. If you want caring for these animals to be part of your legacy, speak with your estate planner because there are tax benefits here too. You can grow your estate while letting your love for animals live well into the future. Check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more and speak with your advisor. We call dog a man's best friend for a reason. You can help those who need it most. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.